Alltrack and Outback, their names evoke images of ruggedness and getting away from it all.
But the reality is that the off-roady versions of the Volkswagen Passat and the Subaru Liberty rarely leave the suburbs. They might go to the occasional ski resort, that is about it. But for this test, we wanted to push them to the extreme to work out which one of these is best at really going off-road.
Welcome to the Kimberley in outback Western Australia. Vast, rugged and the sort of terrain usually traversed by Land Cruisers and patrols. Our cars are completely standard. The Subaru Outback is based on the Liberty wagon but sits noticeably higher off the road and comes with chunkier tyres. The Volkswagen Passat Alltrack is based on the regular Passat wagon and also sits a little bit higher, although not as tall as the Subaru. Both offer family wagon practicality and on-road nous, but with the promise of going a little bit further once the going gets rough. First up, the Passat Alltrack. It is a relative newcomer, but it comes out swinging, priced from just under $50,000.
One area Volkswagen's done a really nice job with the Passat Alltrack is with presentation and the general feeling of decent quality. Inside is really nicely presented, and there's a fair bit of gear in here for the money. You're looking at satellite navigation, nice leather seats, even things like separate air conditioning controls in the rear. So all little things that help you justify what is already a pretty modest cost. The main oversight from a value perspective is with the driver's seat. It's partially electric, so electric back to tilt it back and forward, but then you've got to slide manually fore and aft. Where the Passat starts to surprise is off-road. It's actually surprisingly capable. Of course, you've got to be aware of things like the front and rear bumpers that can scrape if you're not careful. But do that and it's surprising what it will do. A really, really smart traction control system, so it can get you over some pretty tricky obstacles. But the biggest limitation with the Alltrack are the tyres. They are purely on-road tyres, so they're designed to do 200 kilometres an hour plus on an autobahn. They're not designed to do things like this, the Gibb River Road, where you've got really sharp rocks and potentially higher speeds. So we've battled with a few punctures here and there, and really you've just got to pull some speed out of it and accept the fact that you've got to go a bit slower. Another option, of course, is that you can get aftermarket tyres, put on some chunkier rubber that'll hopefully deal with this sort of stuff a bit better. Inside, the Passat is surprisingly practical. You've got plenty of space, really good for a couple of people in the back there, even adults. The boot, a decent size, and you've got things like a power outlet back there so you can power a small fridge, for example. But it's on-road where the Passat Alltrack starts to make up points. It is a really, really nice car to drive, and suddenly those low-profile tyres that don't work so well in the rough stuff do a brilliant job here. You've got really nice cornering accuracy, really good grip, and great higher speed stability. So in the Northern Territory, for example, where you can travel at 130 k's an hour or more, you've got that extra peace of mind. And it's pretty quiet and refined as well. The 4-cylinder diesel engine, it's no firecracker, but it does push this car along pretty well.
There's 140 kilowatts to play with, which is pretty good, and it's backed up by 400 newton meters of torque. So when you need to, it punches along quite nicely, and it certainly has a performance edge in this duel.
And importantly, it's economical.
Value is a key pitch with the Subaru Outback, a car that Aussies have known for 2 decades. This latest 5th generation model packs plenty into the diesel premium model tested here. It's priced from about $45,000.
The Subaru Outback is one of the pioneers of the SUV scene. It's been around for years and has only got better with age, and this latest one is a real treat around town. But out here, the challenges are very different. Yet it's clear Subaru has put a lot of thought into how this car performs off-road. Yes, most of them are just going to spend their time on the road, but this one can do some reasonable off-road work. It's got a full-time four-wheel drive system and an X mode button that's designed to better tailor that traction control system once things start to get a bit more challenging. But in this sort of terrain, we're not relying a whole lot on that. But one advantage the Subaru has is its tyres. It's got Bridgestone Jewelers. They're not designed to trudge over everything, but they will put up with a bit of punishment, and they've been doing extremely well over this terrain. That said, we are taking it pretty easy, all with the idea of getting the cars there in one piece. One area the Outback excels is in comfort. It's got plenty of interior space and loads of features, so you're never really short of gear, and it's certainly exceptional value, particularly once you factor in some of the crash avoidance technology. It's also got loads of features, so satellite navigation, dual zone air conditioning, leather trim and full electric seats. A few areas it misses out compared with the Volkswagen. In the rear, yes, you've got air vents, but you don't have separate controls, and in the very back of the car in the boot, you don't have a power outlet. So If you've got a fridge, as we did on this trip, you've got nowhere to power it up in the back of the car. You need to get an extension cord or hope the cord on the fridge reaches all the way to the front. Under the bonnet's a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel, and it's hooked up to a CVT, or a continuously variable transmission, but it works a little bit differently. It almost tries to create its own gears here and there. Works really well once you're on the move, but for slow speed forward driving, sometimes it just sort of grabs when you're not quite expecting it, so it's not perfect in those situations.
The engine itself is only okay when it comes to performance. There's only 110 kilowatts of power, but fortunately the 350 newton metres of torque is closer to the money, and it's produced very low in the rev range for great mid-range response.
Once you're back on the bitumen, the Subaru is super comfortable. It is surprisingly quiet and very, very capable, and feels quite relaxed, so definitely worse ways to while away the miles. One minor annoyance is the lane departure warning. When you're travelling along quite quickly, it's easy to just get a little bit close to the sides, and so there it all of a sudden beeps when you don't necessarily want it to. So Alltrack and Outback, do they live up to their names? Well, not entirely, but you probably didn't expect them to. They're not about to follow a Land Cruiser into the scrub. But they will surprise in terms of what they'll do. Both have very intelligent four-wheel drive systems and some pretty clever design. Both really practical, both fantastic value. But tyres are the limiting factor, particularly with the Volkswagen. They're very susceptible to punctures, purely on-road hoops. The Outback, on the other hand, slightly better tyres for this sort of thing, and certainly more ground clearance. So on this occasion, the Subaru takes the win, but around town or in a different scenario, it could have been a very different result.